Okay, I just published this week. We're on week 11. So we've got reading tonight as well as a new exercise. So your reading is going to be from chapter 7. It'll be the entire chapter. But I'm going to go over a lot of the key points here in the lecture today. So chapter 7, we are learning how to apply textures and colors and basically paint our walls and make them look pretty. So that is there for your reference. So I do want to go over quite a few things from the textbook before I let you loose. So we've learned a little bit so far about applying textures. Whenever we did our bookcase, we added some glass. So we've had a small introduction to materials, but we're going to go a little bit more in depth this evening. So just applying colors and textures in SketchUp is called painting. You use the paint bucket tool to apply colors and textures. Really, colors and textures are treated the same way in SketchUp. Colors are just, solid hues. Textures are going to be more like images. Images that are pretty much, they tile as a pattern. They'll repeat themselves across the face. Your materials panel lives in your default tray. It should be one of your drop downs here. If you don't see your default tray, you go up to Window, Default Tray, and Show Tray. If you do see your default tray but you don't see the materials panel, same place, Window, Default Tray, and just make sure that materials is checked. And then it'll show up here in your tray. So at the very top, this big swatch here is going to show you your active material swatch. And it'll also display its name at the top. Right now it's just the default because I haven't chosen anything. And similar to your components, you've got this little home button, and that tells you all of the materials that are already in your model. Be aware, just like with components, that materials will stay in your model even if they're not actively being used in your model. But once you've applied a texture somewhere, even if you take that material away, it is still going to live here in your in model. So right now we're seeing all these different things. They are in my model somewhere, and they're probably all going to be on this lady. Let's see here. Yep, Teddy Grip, Teddy Paper, Teddy. These are all the lady. But even if I delete the lady, all of her materials still stay there. We'll learn how to purge those in just a bit. So, like I said, the paint bucket tool is what you use to apply different materials. It looks like a little paint bucket up here at the top, or under Tools, there's Paint Bucket, and your keyboard shortcut is B. B for bucket. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and activate that, hitting B on my keyboard. I should probably actually draw something first to actually paint. Let me get something here. I'll just have a rectangle. Okay, so you can paint a single face, or you can paint multiple at once. Just give myself a couple here. So again, if I hit that B, I'll just go over here and choose a material. So we have what's in our model already, but we also have a drop-down menu here that gives me a lot of collections that are native to SketchUp. These are already built into SketchUp. So you'll see we've got brick cladding and siding. We've got some options there. If you're looking for a stone, there's a few there as well. If you just want straight up colors, we've got colors, lots and lots of colors that you can choose. So lots of different areas that you can go search through for materials that are already in SketchUp. So once I have my paint bucket tool, I'll click on a color here And you'll see once I clicked on that color, it came up as the active one, and it tells me the name of that color. And then I just simply click on a surface to paint it. Or I can select multiple surfaces and then hit that paint bucket tool and click on one of them, and it's going to paint everything that's selected. You can also paint entire groups and components all at once. So let me get a handy cube here. I'm going to make a component of it. So if I'm not even in the components edit mode, if I grab that paint bucket tool and I just click on that component, it's going to turn every single surface of that component that selected material. Same thing with groups. I'll show you again with a group. T for paint bucket, just click on that guy, and all the surfaces paint that color. Now, you can go into your component or your group and paint individual colors. So I can go into this component here, and I'll pick a different color, and I can start to apply those different colors here as well. And then notice, if I go back out of that group, so now I've got 3 surfaces blue and 3 surfaces orange. If I come back out here and I decide, you know what, I changed my mind, I want the whole thing to be green. So now I click on my green color, and I go over again to paint that. You'll notice only the ones that were orange turned green. Any materials that you actively go in and edit, those are going to stay there. You're not going to override those materials by just painting the whole component.
Good to know.
Yes. But you can, again, go back in there and repaint each of those surfaces. So it can be nice and quick if you are looking to just do all the sides, all the faces all at once of a component. Just click on the overall component, or you can go in there and edit and add different materials to different faces. This also applies to like nested groups and nested components as well. Let's take a look. Inside my group here, I'm going to create another group, and I'm going to nest it in here. Kind of funny that that's already all green. Okay, get that, and let's say I want to make it purple. Yeah, if I click out of here, let's see if I want to make it all pink. What will that do? It only turns the original group because I went in and edited and changed this nested one. So just be aware if you're kind of confused why things aren't changing when you think that they should be. Just ask yourself, did I go and edit these textures previously? I might need to go back in there and change them again. All of your colors can be edited as well. All the ones that are here in default, you could edit them if you would like. I wouldn't suggest changing the original. I think that's just good rule of thumb for most things. You don't necessarily want to change the original. I like to make a duplicate and then go in and make my changes. So if let's say I want to change this pink color that I've got. Let's see, here's over here. Nope, it's this little box. Up near the top of your materials panel, there's a little box. And it has a plus sign next to it. You can hit create material, and that basically just duplicates the properties of whatever material was active. So now I got a little floating dialog box here. It duplicated that purple color, but now it's its own material. I can come in here and give it a new name. Purple maybe. You can adjust the color either with this color wheel, or you can also choose maybe RGB if you have a specific RGB that you're going for. You can adjust those values. And then, I'm not going to get into the texture image just yet. Once I hit OK, that immediately went to my in-model materials. Once I have created that new material, they automatically get placed to your in-model collection. Even though I haven't necessarily painted anything that color just yet, but since I just created it, it goes to in-model. You can always come back later on and edit it. So if I've still got that new purple selected as my active color, I can go over to the Edit tab, and I can come in here and continue making some adjustments to it. I'm not sure why the color wheel was grayed out, but RGB is working for me. Oh, there, now the color wheel is back. I think it was just glitching. So you can come back in here and make some more adjustments if you decide you want to change that color. Also in this Edit button, this Edit tab, you'll notice a few other options that we've got. You can always click on this box. It keeps the original color that was there before you started making edits. You can just click on that and it'll return it back to whatever that original color was. Let's say you start making some changes and then you're like, oh, just kidding, I don't actually like that. You can always click on that little box and take it back to its original color. And then to the right here, we've got this button that says Match Color of Object in Model. So let's say I want to match a very specific color of something that's already in my model. Let's actually get something that has a little bit more color to it. I'm going to paint, I don't want those patterns. It's very small. Okay. No, I don't like that. I don't like how small it is. Okay, let's get that ugly carbon.
We're busy.
Okay, so if I go back, I just clicked in model to go back to those colors. And where's my new purple? There it is. I'm going to click on my new purple to make it the active, go back to the Edit tab. So this button, Match Color of Object in Model, I can click on that and I'm given, it's a little hard to see, I'm given an eyedropper. And I can basically just go pick a color that I see somewhere in my model. So if I really like this color here, I should be able to click on that and it automatically adjusts my color to match. That doesn't quite look like the same color to me, but you know, in theory, it works. You can match that same color of something in your model. And then to the right of that button is match anything on your screen. So not necessarily a model element, but it could be anything that is on your screen. So even if I come up here to my toolbar, let's say I really like this color of blue that the SketchUp logo is, I can click on even that blue and it makes my material match that same color. So that's the two differences. This first one, you can click on anything that's in your model to match it. The other one, anything that's on your screen.
So like if I download something from the 3D warehouse and you know how they have furniture already done and stuff, whatever color that is, you can just use that eyedropper and pull that color.
Yep.
Nice. To make all your furniture match.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Yeah, also you can just bring up, let's say I've got this here and I want to change it, I want to change this orange surface to this purple surface. Maybe I don't really remember what color or what that purple color was named. I just want to grab that color and throw it onto my new surface. We can do that as well. Just back on the Select tab, there's also an eyedropper button right here. So you can basically grab a sample of something and it makes that your active material, and then you can go on and paint with that material. Okay, so materials also have the option to add a texture image to them. We've really mostly just been looking at colors so far, but you can also add a texture image. So many of SketchUp's default materials have a texture image applied, like all of these different carpets and fabrics and stuff. Those are just images that are repeated across a face to make it look like one nice texture. So let's go back to, let's say if I want to create a new material again. We looked at kind of the color picker and things like that, but there's also this option to use a texture image if you'd like. So whenever I click on that, it's automatically going to ask me to go choose an image from my computer. So I'm going to go find one. I downloaded a couple. I thought that I did. Maybe I have to go unzip zip file. Yeah, there it is. I'm going to unzip it. Okay, there it is. Nice. Okay, so let's just say I've got some textures here. I'll grab one and open. It's kind of hard to see. That is an image there that it's now created, and it's pulling from that texture that I just grabbed. It could be JPEG, PNG, probably those two are the ones that you're going to want to look for. If you ever want to change this image out, you can just hit this little browse folder and it'll take you back to your desktop where you can go choose something different. And now it's turned into that new image that I just clicked. Let's see here. You can adjust the color of your image with the color wheel here. You see I can kind of change all the different colors of what's going on there. Something I would suggest if you're going to change the color of an image, I would click on this little colorize button that's down here underneath your texture image. And that just makes it so that every hue that's part of that image kind of adjusts proportionally with each other. Let me find a good example. I know there's a brick one that you can see it pretty well. I think it's this one. So that's interesting, something I just noticed. It only lets you edit it if it's already in your model. So it was all grayed out before, but as soon as I put it into my model, it's suddenly letting me edit it. So, for example, if I want to colorize this one, or if I want to change the color of this brick color, if I start looking at the color wheel here and start moving things around, you'll see that it's getting really strange. Like I'm getting all sorts of weird colors. Maybe that's what you're going for. If I hit this little colorize button, it makes it all kind of move together with that color. So that colorize button is really helpful when you go to change the color of your textures. And then you can also change the proportions of an image. Get in here real well so we can see. I'm going to change it back to that default color. I just clicked on that gray box to return it to its original color. So down here we can change the proportions of the image. So let's say I want to double the size of these bricks. Right now it's 3 feet left and right. I'll change it to 6 feet, and that automatically got bigger. And you'll see that it changed proportionally. It was 1.5 down here in the up and down direction, but it changed proportionally as I also changed the left and right. You can make it not do that. you just need to hit this little chain here, and that kind of locks or unlocks if your proportions are going to stay together. So if I click on that little chain, now it looks like it's broken. Now I can go in here, and if I double this one again, let's say I do 12 feet, it didn't change this other one. That one stayed at 3 feet. And now I've just got some extra long bricks. So just be kind of aware whenever you are changing the proportions of an image, it might start to look out of scale or look a little bit wonky. So probably best to keep that chain together unless, again, you might have a very specific reason that you don't want it to change proportionally. Let's see here. So whenever you, let's go back to, I didn't end up creating that one image I was working on. So let me hit that create new material again. And let's see here, I don't know what I'm going to call this one. I'll just call it material 1. I'm going to go back and browse through my folders here and find that image I was working with earlier. Wow, I'm so sorry. That's not working. Let's go over here. Oh, that's really lucky. So one thing, if you are looking for your own images that you want to create materials for, you know, this is an image that I just found on the internet, you do want to look for seamless textures. It'll be really obvious if you have an image and it just really looks stamped across your face. So if you just Google like seamless image or seamless texture, that just basically makes it where you can't tell that it's repeating itself. Because that's what SketchUp does, is it just takes that image and continuously repeats itself over the face. So you want to make those nice and seamless so that it looks more realistic whenever you go to actually take like snapshots of your model. You can also import textures from other models just with like a copy paste or just importing something new into your model. Just like whenever we download things from the 3D warehouse, a component, it brings in all of that data, and that includes materials. So whenever you download new things from the 3D warehouse, if it has materials applied, those are going to automatically come into your model, and they'll be found at that in-model place. So let's just, if I do pull up the 3D warehouse, I'll just look for any random table. Okay, this one's kind of cute. I'm going to download this one. Yes. Oh, that's tiny. Alright, once I stick that into my model, it should bring, yep, it looks like that's it right there. Get in here a couple times until I can find that surface. There we go. I click on that surface, I'm going to go up to my entity info. It does tell you in your entity info what your front face and your back face are painted as. And so that material, yep, that's the one that was brought into my model. So just be aware as you start to load more and more things into your model. Oh, yep, it looks like there's the seat color too. As you start to load more and more things into your model, it brings everything in with it. So that's how components can really start to slow down your model, is just because all of those tags, all of those materials, everything is coming into your model.
You just did that from the 3D warehouse?
Yep, I just downloaded something. Same thing if I were to just have a different SketchUp file open and I copied something from that file into this one, same thing, it would bring in all of its materials and stuff as well. Any material that you create yourself or you duplicate from another material, those are only going to be available in this model that you're working in. If you close out and go open a new SketchUp model, those materials are not going to be there for you again. But we have a way that we can, if you end up finding textures that you really like, we can create collections out of those, and it's going to be a very similar process to how we created collections for our components a few weeks ago. So let's see here. So we created a local collection for our components. We can do the same thing for materials. So let's just walk through that process again. Make this nice and big. Are we okay so far? Am I going too fast? Am I confusing? Okay, so yeah, let's say that you find a bunch of images that you like for flooring, or you found a bunch of wallpapers that you like, and you want to be able to find those next time. You can just save all of those images to a folder on your computer, similar to how I did. I just created a textures folder and I started adding some images that I like here. So you can do that, create yourself a folder, and then in your materials panel, we will go to this details button, the little arrow, and we're going to open or create a collection. Same process we did for components. So open or create a collection. And it's going to ask you where that's at. So I'll go navigate to where mine are. This textures folder, and I'll hit select folder. And now it's brought that up for me. And you'll see there's only one texture actually created so far. And that's actually because that's the one that I've already created a material in SketchUp for. But I still had like 4 other images in here. Well, why aren't those showing? It's because right now those are just solely images. We need to actually convert them into SketchUp materials. So we do have to individually import each material. So you can do it the way that we did this one. You can go create a new material and just grab that image and create that material. Or we can go to File and Import. A little bit slow. There we go. And I'll grab this texture too, maybe. And you'll see with this option, I'm given a few options down here at the bottom. We want to make it, let's see here, where did I have that in my notes? We want to make it a texture. If we keep it as an image, it's not going to do that same tiling effect. It'll just bring in that one single image, and that's all you're going to get. If you put texture, that's where it's going to tell SketchUp, okay, we're going to repeat that pattern around to actually create a material from it. New matched photo, we're not even worried about that. That's a little bit of craziness there. So, just know for us, we're going to do textures, and then we can hit it. And now it's just basically asking, okay, here's your image, where do you want it? And as soon as I find a surface, my cursor turns into a paint bucket, and I can just paint that surface. It's a little bit of a funny process. But then there is that new material. But it didn't appear in my collection just yet. It's a little bit of a convoluted process here. So to make this material, which it should now be in my model, a little difficult to find. There it is. It's this one right here. There's my texture 02 that I created. So to get it actually into my collection that I've been creating, I'm gonna hit this little black and white button up here at the top that displays the secondary selection panel. So this is hopefully ringing a bell from components. I've got the same thing here, so I can navigate to one collection in the top pane and a different collection in the bottom one. So in this top one, I'm gonna stay in model. And in this bottom one, I'm gonna find, my textures one is gone. I might have to go open up that collection again. So I hit that little details arrow, open or create collection, and there's my textures. I'm already there. Okay, so now I've found my textures collection down here at the bottom. All I need to do is just drag it down from my in model to my textures. And now it's there. If I go look at my desktop, I now have texture 02 in that texture folder. It's probably confusing the first time seeing it. Might take a little bit of practice to get the hang of it. But you have to actually import the images, create the materials, and then basically save it back to that collection in order for it to show up. But the good news is, after you do this process one time, next time you go open your new SketchUp, you should just be able to open that local collection, and those textures will be there. You only have to kind of map them out the first time.
Right. It doesn't say collection, it just, how do you just know that that second window?
Yeah, the collection that you're looking at is actually what's in this drop-down. So at the top, my collection is in model. At the bottom, it's textures, and where it got that name is just the name of the folder that I used from my desktop. So this folder is called textures. That's where I made my local collection, and so that's the name that it's pulling from. Okay. Let's see, where did I land off here? Didn't I talk about that? Yep. Okay, so then we did talk, we do want to purge materials that are not being used in our model so that they're not taking up space and slowing down our model. So to get rid of materials that you no longer want to use, I'm gonna go ahead and collapse this secondary panel now just by going up and hitting that black and white button again to hide that secondary selection panel. So to get rid of materials that you don't want anymore, you go to your in-model collection, click the little details arrow, and hit purge unused. When you purge unused, now you'll see quite a few materials disappear. So that just basically gets them out of my model. If they are not actively painted on some object in my model, that purge unused is going to get rid of them. However, that won't, let's say that I had created a material and then I put that into my local collection. If I didn't end up using that material and I purged it out, that's not going to get rid of it in my collection on my computer. That'll still be there. However, if you go to that same details and hit this delete all button, that's going to delete from your model as well as if it's saved somewhere on your computer. So probably want to avoid that delete all button. If you want to just get rid of things in your model to clear up some space, use that purge unused button.
Could you click on one individually and just delete?
If you can, let's take a look. Yep, you can. It just says, hey, this is being used. And if you do delete it, it'll replace it with the default material. So I can say yes. We're not going to see this change because this is one of, I guess, Teddy's. Oh, that's interesting. So even though Teddy isn't here anymore. I deleted her. Her materials are still there, and I'm gonna guess that it's because Teddy is still hanging out in my components panel down here. There she is. So let's see. Let's see if I can completely get rid of her. Let me purge my unused components. So now Teddy is gone. Let's see, can I purge my unused materials again? Yep, and then now all of Teddy looks like it's gone. Oh, there's still one Teddy. I must have put it somewhere. But that's also a good note. If your component still exists in your components panel, it won't get rid of its materials because that component is still technically in your model. So good idea to purge both your components and your materials for those unused items. Let's say you go through and you paint everything and it's just kind of overwhelming. I don't really want to see all the textures anymore. I still want them there. I don't want to redo all that work, but I just kind of want to display things as just those default materials, that white and kind of grayish color. You can do that. You can go up to View and Face Style, and we can do Monochrome, and that just kind of turns it back to that default white block style. And we can always go back up there, View, Face Style, and change it back to shaded with textures, and that'll display those textures again for you. You can do that same thing in your Styles panel. If you want to edit your style, you can go over to the Edit, Face Settings, and you can look at things monochrome there as well. Two ways to get to it, whichever you prefer. Okay, a couple more things. So we talked about editing the size of an image through that Edit tab, and we can just kind of change the size left to right, up and down that way. But we can kind of further manipulate our texture images if we like. Might get. I can't click on anything. I'm not pretty sure it's gonna. Yeah, it's not letting me. Okay, let's try again. Okay, and we're back. Alright, so we get a new image painted here. Let's see. You get another ugly carpet. Okay. Probably didn't need to create something like that. Okay, so let's say, we learned we can go over to the Edit tab and change proportions left, right, up, and down. But we can kind of further manipulate what this image is looking like on a specific face. So if I change the proportions over here on the Edit tab, that's going to change the material everywhere that I've applied it. You're basically changing the material itself. However, if I want to change it just for one specific instance, one face that it's on, let's see, I can show a better visual of that. So right now I've got two surfaces that are each painted with this same rug stripe pattern. If I go in here and I change this, it's changing them both together because I'm editing the material. If for some reason I want just this one to look a little bit different, I can do that. You right click on a surface that is already painted with a texture and hover over texture here, and you can go to position. And what that does is it basically shows you the entire boundary of just that image, or just kind of shows you lots of them stamped on top of each other. And then these pins in here, okay, the pins show actually what is one single image. So this image right here is what's being stamped across the face. And I don't know if you can see very well, there are some little dashed blue lines that are kind of showing where that grid is happening. So these different pins, they do different things. They can move, scale, rotate, or distort the image. So the material itself won't be affected. If I start playing around with this one's not going to change because I'm not necessarily editing the material, I'm just editing how this specific image is displayed on this face. So let's just take a look at what these different pins do. I'm just hovering over this blue one, and it tells me that I can drag this pin to scale or shear the texture. So if I start just dragging that guy around, you can see it's just kind of rotating it, just shearing that image. You can put it back to its starting point, not affected. This red one, I can drag the pin to move the texture. So if I start dragging that one around, it's just kind of moving where that image is happening on my surface. My surface stays in the same spot, but I can move my image around because maybe I want it to start at a different spot. This green one, I can drag the pin to scale or rotate the texture image. So if I start dragging that one around, it's starting to rotate it, and I can also, if I go further away from the protractor, it's making it bigger. If I bring that pin closer to the center of the protractor, it's making my image quite a bit smaller. And see, my other one over there is just hanging out. It's not being affected. And you can just put it back to where that original starting point was. And then finally, this yellow one, it distorts the texture. So if I start dragging that one around, it's kind of like it's going on an angle at that point. Things can be a little wild with that one. I'll put that one back where it is. You can also move these pins if they're not quite at the spot that you want. If you want it to just maybe the way you want to manipulate it, where these pins are, is not quite doing it for you. You can just click it, and that basically lets you pick the pin up, and you can go place it somewhere else. Maybe I want that down there. And that just basically will help, like maybe you're using the rotate one, you can choose a different point of rotation on your image. So again, I can click and lift it up, and now if I go put it down here and I start dragging it around, oh, it's actually from that red point that it's rotating around. That's interesting. But basically, you can just pick up the pins, put them different places for them to do different things for you. So that one's actually shearing between the blue and the green. It's using the blue and green as kind of its points that are stable. So you kind of got to play around with it a little bit, but you know, basically where those points are is going to affect how the image is manipulated. So again, with that, and then you can just click away from it to end out of that. So again, that was a right click, texture, and position. And if you've done a bunch of things and you notice you decided you don't like that, you can always reset position. I didn't change mine very much, so you might not have even noticed it reset, but you hit that reset position and it'll go back to its original. And then my last thing, the 3D warehouse has some materials that you can grab also. You're looking through SketchUp's default, they're just not quite doing it for you, which I don't blame you, all of those carpets are pretty bad. You can go up to your 3D warehouse, again, that's under Window, 3D warehouse, or the shortcut is W. And let's say that I'm looking for, well, I'll just type in carpet here. And I'll search for that. And then of course it brings up different components that I might want to use for a carpet. But you can also navigate up at the top over to materials. And that's basically showing just different materials that people have created and uploaded to SketchUp. So if you like any of these, you can download them directly into your model. Oh, this one might be a good one to show how you might manipulate an image for your specific purposes. So I'm going to download this one. But I don't have anything to paint with it just yet. Let me get a rectangle going here. Okay. But it did still show up for me with that carpet there. And it did go to my in-model materials. So, I'm going to paint this guy. And that is not what I want my rug to look like. That is not how I want the image to display on this rug that I'm creating. So, this is a great chance for me to right-click, texture, and position. So this one, you'll see it moved its grips to the boundaries of one image there. And that is basically what I want to put on my rectangle so that my rug looks right. So we probably need to do a few things here. This one might be a little tricky. Let's see if we can do it. So I think the first thing I want to do is I actually want to rotate this image to get it going long ways with my surface. So the green one is the rotate. And the green one rotates around that red one, the red pin. I kind of like where that red pin's at because I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees. And the inference engine is still helping you out here. You can snap to different corners of things. So I'm going to snap to that top edge right there. And then now I want to move that over. I think I'm just going to move it a little bit to get my pins a little bit more where I'd like them. Okay, so this side looks lined up, this bottom side's good, top side. I just need to scale it a little bit to get this one over here. Let's see here, is that yellow? No. Scale is the blue. So let's see here, if I just start to drag that. So it's dragging now again towards that red pin. My red pin, I like where it's at because it's going to stay in place. So I can just basically snap to that edge, let go, click away, and that's what I want my rug to look like.
Wow. That's amazing.
So yeah.
Easy peasy. It is.
You can do that if you're trying to put some artwork on the wall. You might want your art to be a specific size inside of your picture frame. So yeah, those are super helpful. Yeah, 3D Warehouse. You can go search through any of those materials, find some things that you like. And that's basically all I got for you today. For showing lecture and how to use materials. Any questions over anything we went over? So then your assignment today so exercise 12, I did put in here just some more, it should line up pretty well with what we went over today, but just in case you want to go back and look at some things, I put in here kind of what each thing on your materials panel looks like.
That's helpful.
Yeah. Again, sorry, this is in 2021, so it looks a little bit outdated, but it's still the same. Had a few explanations in here about actually applying textures, editing textures. Again, talking about those different points we just saw, if you want to affect the position of a texture that you have. So hopefully this is some helpful information for you. And then the actual assignment is we're going to start applying materials to our tiny house model. So a couple of things that we definitely want to paint. We'll have the exterior walls of your house, the interior walls of your house, the floors, and we want to use at least 2 different flooring materials. And so for that, you might have to separate your floor surface into multiple surfaces. I should have downloaded, let's see if I can quickly grab a tiny house model here. Let's see, this might be one. Okay, so just in case you're watching this later on, if you've got your exterior walls in a group, we should just be able to paint the group. Oh wow, that is crazy. Let's see here. Let's get something actually that you might find. There we go. That looks slightly better. Okay, so for your floor, I'm going to turn off my exterior walls. This one looks a little bit different from yours, that's okay. And let's get rid of the walls, roof. Okay, and stairs. So let's say you want different areas to look a little bit different. Maybe I want those interior walls back on for just a second. Oh shoot, I might need the exterior walls on too. Let's say you want your bathroom to be a different flooring material than the rest of your floor. We just need to separate the floor surface into multiple surfaces. So right now, if I double click on my floor, that's the one that I'm editing here. If I were to just go ahead and paint something right now on that floor, the whole floor is going to turn that color because the floor is just one surface right now. I'm going to Control Z to undo that. So all we have to do is just separate our floor into separate areas. So maybe you turn your X-ray on, base style X-ray, if that's helpful for you, maybe it's not. And then we just need to draw some lines to separate that surface out. X-ray gets a little bit, but if I'm just nice and straight along that red axis, all the way to the outside edge. Let's go back in there. Now that I've separated that surface, I can just paint that one area at the house. And if I go turn off everything here real quick, let's turn off the exterior walls and my interior walls, and I'm just left with my floor. Let me turn off that X-ray again. That's basically all I did, was just turn this one surface, drew a couple of lines to separate those into 2 separate ones. So basically we're just drawing lines across to make multiple surfaces that we can apply different materials to.
And we don't have to mess with components or anything like that. We don't have to like label it or anything. Okay. You know me.
Yeah.
Wait, it would just make a rectangle? I know it makes a new surface on top of it, but it wouldn't work the same way.
Still within your
within the component.
Floor group here?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would have done the same thing. That actually doesn't create multiple surfaces on top of each other. Oh, well that one did. Yeah, you're right, it does. So that's the only thing that's gonna happen if you do create a surface on top of a surface, is that flashing is gonna happen. Even if I do paint that a different surface, just once you start moving around, you're gonna see that things look a little bit different.
Can't you just raise it like a quarter of an inch or?
I actually didn't even do that. I didn't make the reflection. I did that.
But
Yours isn't flashing
think
around?
somebody gonna trip up.
Yeah, but it's a tiny house. I mean, yes, you could pull it up slightly to get rid of that flashing.
And even floor level. I'm still in the building.
Right, 'cause well, what if you wanted to put like a rug in that room?
Oh,
Yeah, a rug would be something that you might create,
On top of a.
like a new group.
Mhm.
I wouldn't start editing your floor surface if you're wanting to create a,
Separation.
Oh, you know what? That's why it created that flashing, is because I wasn't inside my floor group. So if you are inside that group and you did create a rectangle, it should just create its own separate surface. That doesn't necessarily duplicate surfaces on top of each other.
And you
But
can
if you're-
rug like that.
Right.
Okay.
But if you're not inside of that group and you do create a new surface, that's when the flashing is gonna happen. Because then it is two surfaces stacked on top of each other. So if you are wanting to create a rug, this is fine. I probably would just bump it up slightly to actually create some thickness of the rug, and then probably create a group or a component of your rug. So that the rug is actually separate from your floor surface. Let's see here, what else we're doing. Go ahead and paint your built-ins that we've been working on. And again, try to choose different materials for your cabinets versus your countertops versus your hardware. And then any other areas that you want to start applying textures to. I know we haven't thrown too many things into our tiny house models just yet. But, you know, just go ahead and start applying some materials, and we'll keep on working on it. Next week, we're actually going to start filling our tiny house with components. And don't worry, I won't make you model these anymore. You can download them from the 3D warehouse and start just getting some furniture and artwork and all that fun stuff into your tiny house. So that's going to be next week. If you want to start adding some things in, I'm not going to tell you you can't. But so basically, this week and next week is applying materials, adding things to your tiny house. If you want to kind of go back and forth and do both, that's totally fine. And I also put our friend, the goofy SketchUp guy.
It's amazing.
Yeah, he has good videos. So I threw him in here.
He
He's
speaks
got
in English.
He has a nice tutorial for materials as well in SketchUp. He has a lot of good tutorials just on SketchUp in general. So yeah. Any questions? Okay. The rest of the time is yours. Let me get our recording started processing, and then I'll come around and help you.